Buenos nachos, amigos, and welcome to Record Breakers, a podcast where we share music with each other in a circle of friendship and trust. I'm Peter Ravenman with no plan. Here with me is my team, my squad, my crew. We've got Brett.
Ahoy, hoy.
We've got Drew.
Howdy.
And we've got Patrick.
Hello.
Yeah, and we're here to talk about music. Talk about an album. Cool album. The provider of the album this week is Brett. Brett, what do you got for us?
Well, I mean, we got this album up. It is hard, Petey. I struggle to do what you do. We're listening to the Ben Folds 5 and their album, Whatever and Ever, Amen.
Mm-hmm. It is a very cool, interesting album, to say the least. Probably one that a lot of people are familiar with. But let's just talk about expectations. Drew, what were your expectations coming into this album?
I was expecting some piano and some singing. Now, the Ben Folds and his compositional styles are something I'm familiar with, but never in full album form. I feel like I say that a lot when it comes to Brett's albums, and that I am familiar with the artist, but not in a fully complete package. So it was something that I was very excited to get into. I saw it had a song that I was very familiar with on this one, by name. There was ones I was familiar with by sound, but not necessarily by name. So I was excited to get into it.
Mm-hmm. Patrick, what were your expectations coming into this album?
This is one of those albums I did not have to add to my library. Some years ago, I had a piano rock period of my life where that was the subgenre of music I was really into. This is a couple of years back, and if you go into the piano rock as a sort of idea, Ben Folds is one of the foremost purveyors of that. So I'm probably way more familiar with his quote unquote solo work, the stuff that came after this, but I definitely have heard this album more than a few times and am pretty familiar with it. But it's been a minute since I've listened to it.
You mostly knew him from when he was rocking the Suburbs.
That album and some of the other stuff that came after it, yes.
Quite
John
right.
He became an old man and a dad.
Yeah. Yeah. Brett, how would you describe this album musically? What would be the theme song?
I mean, this is quite the album. This hit me at the right time. I saw Ben Folds when I was in the 7th grade, and this album had just come out. This is it's a guy pounding on his Baldwin while a guy plays sometimes and most of the time fuzzed out bass guitar, and there's a guy on the drums drumming. I mean, the lyrically, it's it's a lot of I'm a loser who plays loser music on an instrument that got hardly anybody laid past 1940. It's not quite the I'm gonna sit around this campfire and woo this woman with my Baldwin baby grand, but it's not a a jump splits kind of instrument like the kalimba or the didgeridoo. It's very very of its own sound. So you hear a piano, and piano has this wonderful thing where it can step on every instrument toe. It is percussive because it is a percussion instrument. So you're banging on stuff. It also is as low as your bass guitar is going to be hanging out, and high, if not higher, than your guitar is ever going to be going. There's a lot of less is more needed when you're playing a piano in a band. A piano can both play single notes and chords. So it can be ever present, but part of what you hear with Ben Folds' music in particular is he'll play his piano when it's time to be all being piano man, but when he's singing his verses, the verses and a lot of times in the choruses he will play less and let other people play. A lot of the most noteworthy sections of songs are parts where the piano is not being played. And it's kind of weird when you just hear like, one note every couple of seconds of a piano on top of a fuzzed out bass guitar. It's a sound that you don't really hear too often. But it's a rock and roll ass rock and roll, kinda. Like there's some songs that you wouldn't expect to be of the era of alternative rock and roll, and the lyrical content is a whole lot different than the heroin tunes we were getting at the time by the peers. But it's almost as if this is a college rock band that thrived on college rock radio, and then all of a sudden had to be shoehorned into a genre. And then later on, the guy went and played like, soft adult jazz influenced songs about being a dad. So this is the precursor to that.
Man.
This isn't a guy who was born and bred, raised to rock. Although he chooses not to anymore.
Yeah.
And it's not always a bad thing, man.
So this is this is a piece and chunk of this man's life, and this album is sort of the soundtrack to a chunk of my life.
Yeah. You say rock, but there's no guitars. What's the deal, man? I don't.
He's got an
I just want to
88-string
interject.
guitar.
Brett made the sweeping assumption that piano never got anyone laid, but I just want to remind everyone, Billy Joel was married to Christy Brinkley for several years. It does work.
Did he
sometimes.
have the money first?
I mean, he had the piano.
Here's his point, though. I think, if I may paraphrase for Brett.
Yo, baby, I'm a podcaster.
You can't take your piano to a frat party and have a drunk sorority.
You can't play
girl.
Wonderwall on a piano.
We have 3 people who play stringed instruments in the room here. Has anyone ever actually done that successfully?
I play bass.
Well, you don't. Yeah, but like, yeah. Okay. Okay.
I'm telling you,
I haven't ever busted out a Fat Bootsy Collins lick and then gotten my dick sucked. That's never happened. Like, because it's a bass. Look, way to be an asshole. Fuck you too.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm a drummer. That's like completely worthless.
Yeah.
Yeah.
yeah,
Well, you were in the Mulligans. It can work.
yeah.
But yeah.
Support your
Drew.
local ska band.
Drew, how would you describe this album musically? What would be the themes elements that got your attention?
Well, this is it was on 90s college radio, right? That's sort of where it was at.
Well, hey, you live in a
But-
college town.
Yeah.
I
Weird
forgot about that.
band that was played a lot in the local the artsy college town. Weird. But it replaces the guitar you would normally hear with piano. And isn't that a goddamn novel thing? Because it works really goddamn well. He's Ben Folds, as it were, is a really great songwriter. Like, he can write really great songs. The composition, I think, is some of the best in this sort of milieu, right? Like, where this band sort of lives on your radio dial, I think has some of the smartest composition work. This album flows really well. It never lets you get too slow and melodic. It goes too crazy. It hits everywhere really, really well.
Well, I mean,
So-
there is the point when he has the song about going to get an abortion, but that's less jump splits off the Marshall stack. But
Yeah.
I'm talking more musically,
Okay.
not lyrically. Maybe lyrically it's a little different. But musically, it hits very, very well. Yeah, there are some songs about some serious stuff. But you also have it's Ben Folds 5, so you think, okay, you're going to get some good singing and some good piano out of the guy the band is named after. But the other 5, meaning 2 people, are also very good in this band. The musicianship is really great. Not only that, but hey, speaking of bass, I was pretty happy with a lot of the bass work in this album. there's some really cool stuff coming out of the low end. The mix I think is really, really solid as well. Something that you don't always get a lot of times with this like style of band from this era, but I think it works really well. Again, it comes from the intelligence of putting this stuff together, and I think it's just overall a really fun album to just like sit back and listen to for that aspect. But that's me, I guess.
Yeah. Patrick, how would you describe this album musically?
Ben Folds bangs on a piano and has a rock band behind him who also sometimes plays jazzy shit because they're entirely too talented to be lumped in with most of alternative radio in 1997. I feel like Ben Folds in some ways is a genre unto himself. Like there's elements of a lot of things, but like it gets called alternative rock. It really isn't. It gets called power pop. It really isn't. I call it piano rock because I feel like it comes out of it is a modern interpretation of the long existing thing of, the stuff that came through the aforementioned Billy Joel or Elton John
Stuff
for that
that,
matter,
like,
minus
white
the big
people like.
sunglasses. Yeah, some white people probably like. I feel like Ben Folds might manage to get some non-white fans in the audience just because I don't know, his music's really good. But
just quoting Carl. Walk with you.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, music white people like Toto.
Like Speedwagon or something.
Great, man.
Yeah.
But this album, maybe by design, track to track is kind of an emotional roller coaster. There's some serious ass shit. There's some unserious ass shit. And that's kind of one of the things I enjoy about Ben Folds. I feel like he doesn't take himself entirely too seriously. He's pretty clever in terms of his wordplay lyrically, and he bangs on a piano. And saying bang on a piano sounds like it's like haphazard or something, but like he plays a piano like a rock guitarist plays guitar. He does whatever the piano equivalent of a Pete Townsend windmill is. It's that sort of level of commitment.
I saw him
stands up, commits on it, dances, throws stuff, flips over things. Yeah, it is very rock and roll.
$100,000 Baldwin L1 get pounded on with a drum stool or drum throne.
It does all the things Bugs Bunny does when he played the Hungarian symphony or whatever it was called, or what was it? I don't know.
Somebody comes up and like raises the seat up on him, and he has to like play while the tails of his tuxedo. When I saw him live,
he picks up all the keys,
just like a Ben
throws them back down.
Yeah.
But like, it's a fun record. It is like I said, calling it alternative rock, and I'm someone who likes a lot of music that falls into that genre, but it doesn't, I think, stylistically fit with what it is, considering there is like some genuinely jazzy ass things on here, but also like a great fucking breakup song. Like it's a piano rock record, but also the fact that Ben Folds kind of wanders genres pretty effortlessly.
A great expression of an unhealthy thought after a breakup. Which is really cool.
That is a healthy thought. Anyone who has ever had a breakup where someone took something that you liked, this is a totally normal reaction.
But that is the secondary part of that song.
I still want my Firefly DVDs back, goddammit.
I am more pissed off that I have gone on dates where I had to pay for expensive meals only to get broken up with after I pay for them. That is the basis of the song.
Yes.
Also, I missed some T-shirts myself, but
let's talk about some key tracks, Brett. While we're at it, what would be some of the key tracks for you?
I mean, there are a lot of different tracks on here, but I think it opens up pretty well with One Angry Dwarf and 200 Solemn Faces. It's the piano's being played like, if you took the rock and roll out of it, like this is just like a bluesy piano jam with a fuzzed out bass guitar and drums. That like this could be somewhat modified if if the vocals were changed and the way that it was written, the song could be very different. But it comes out sort of punchy. And the like song of the downtrodden kid who, you know, who got picked on and ended up reaching the pinnacle of manhood, being a piano player in a band, is something that I could relate to. The song that we were talking about earlier, "Song for the Dumped," is probably one of the greatest breakup songs. It comes right after the song about getting an abortion too. So it picks things up. It's very different. But yeah, you can tell that it was brought from it was birthed from a place of it is a very genuine sounding song. It is an everyman story, but it hits especially close to home for somebody who has paid for a very fancy Italian dinner and as a shitbag teenager with no money, only to get dumped after paying for everything. Not that I was expecting nothing out of it, but you could have dumped me before I spent, half of my paycheck from working at the body shop under the table. And then the battle of who could care less. It's probably the it's got that Fat Fuzz sound in it as well. The bass is super nice. There's plenty of room that the piano gives the low end to sort of do its thing. You got to sort of play it right because Ben Folds is up there with 88 keys on a piece of furniture. You got to give some room to the guy that's normally got the biggest rig in the house. And the bass really does a whole lot. And I think is pretty great how it didn't nothing really stepped on each other's toes in those songs. But there are 8 songs on this album that had radio play in my hometown. So this is a known album, but those are the songs that they spoke to me. There are songs that I can not really relate to, but
Yeah. Drew, what would be some of the key tracks for you?
One Angry Dwarf and 200 Solemn Faces, because hot damn that bass. It starts really strong. It's a slap in the ivories type of song and does it in a really, really cool way. Brick, it's
Ba-na-na-na.
wow, getting me laughing when talking about this song. Cool. Way to go. Yeah, this song is it's a single and weirdly so if you kind of dive into the lyrics, but the song itself musically is very, very pretty. It's slow, a little morose at times, lets Ben Folds sort of stretch some vocal chops in areas. It's the high mark in the song that's well remembered for a reason, in my opinion. And you go from that, and then you have, like Brett said, a battle of who could care less. It is it's just kind of a fun, bouncy sounding song. It is just kind of cool that way. And it's a song that, it's just the thing, in my opinion, that Ben Folds does really well is embodied in the song, which is just making a song that, from the composition to the playing, just is fun to listen to.
Yeah, it's just overall fun to listen to. Patrick, what would be some of the key tracks for you?
Get it out of the way, Brick. This is the saddest sing-along chorus ever written. This song, to take it seriously, it communicates really complicated emotions without really talking about how anyone feels in the whole song. It's telling the story, but in part because of the way the music is written and in part because of some of the word choices. You get this whole emotional journey that the song is, about, literally Ben and his girlfriend as teenagers getting an abortion and ultimately, telling their families, and it just being an obviously complicated, difficult situation. And yet a sing-along chorus. Really great song. I remember watching the video for this 20 years ago. God, I'm old. And just really loving it then and still loving it now. Song for the Dumped. What a turn of emotions after the previous aforementioned track about abortion. It's sort of this weird comic relief, but also this is Ben Folds beating the absolute shit out of a piano, and that is a thing that it's the only way to describe what he does. There's a really great fuzzed out bass. So you're in a trio here where you, despite the fact that it's Ben Folds 5, I know the joke's been made a million times. I'll probably make it again. Actually, I know I will. But you got this fuzzed out bass that in a lot of ways fills some of the sort of expectations that a guitar might on a track like this. It's got a really kind of weird bridge that's sort of, dun, 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 or whatever. I don't know. But it's got a weird...
Yeah, just like that. That was the playing a recording.
That was the royalty-free version of it that was played on the Muzak. But it's got a weird
Jimmy
bridge,
Hart
but it's
version.
it is otherwise
Great value, Ben Folds.
a a really angry rock song, but played on a
Kirkland
piano
signature.
instead of a guitar. And then Selfless, Cold, and Composed. This is like the fun, jazzier Ben Folds. But really, it's got this great string section near the end. Strings are it's really easy to use strings poorly on a record. And this is a really good example of how to use them to build the end of a song and make it kind of more grandiose, especially when you're only working with 3 dudes and it makes sense to once in a while fill that space in with other instruments, and it works really well. And it's just kind of a nice song.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I would also like to give a shout out to Steven's Last Night in Town for being kind of like a completely fun departure in style, which I really like. It just had its own kind of sound in the middle of the album, and it was pretty fantastic just in general. And shout out to
My
Steven.
boy. Shout out to my boy Steven.
Steven Short. What up? Keep killing it. Keeping it 100. All right, fam. Let's bring it back around the horn. Talk about some conclusive thoughts. Drew, what would be your conclusion on Ben Folds 5?
The guy is still making music. Ben Folds is still making music, and I feel like if you make music and make your entire living off of music for as long as he has, you're probably pretty good at it. This is pretty early on, obviously, in his career, and it's really just good. There's not much you can say about it besides all right, damn, the dude can write a tune, and the tunes are usually good to listen to. Whether they be good to listen to because they've got weird depth to them, or whether they're cool to listen to because they're kind of weird and off the wall and a little funny and fun to bounce around to. Either way, it always works, and
It works every time.
It's one of those things where anything Ben Folds touches is usually seems like it's pretty easy to recommend, in my opinion. So something that if you don't know, now you know.
Anything Ben Folds stays folded. Also, it's kind of weird and a little funny, but it's not kind of funny because Greg Miller's not involved at all. Yeah.
At the Doritos influencer zone. Ben Folds.
Patrick, what will be your conclusion on this album?
I was glad to come back and listen to this. It's been a couple of years since I've spent time with it. Ben Folds is pretty great at some things. This sort of late 90s, early 2000s Ben Folds is really, really, really good. Like there's like 3 or 4 really great records in that sort of era, and this is sort of the beginning of that. Whether it is the Ben Folds 5 or, just Ben Folds. I think like I have this like weird like thing with songs that I feel like will last forever. I feel like Brick is one of those songs that is going to be playing on radio until the end of time. It's just really great. It's it's a sad ballad, but it's got a great chorus and it's musically really nice. And I might have to go listen to some other Ben Folds when I find some time, because it's like I said, it's been a few years since I've really listened to this stuff, and I'm reminded how good it is.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, overall, it's just a fantastic record. I think just a fun listen. It's a fun album to sing along to in your car, driving home, just singing it loud in your car. And I think that's a good benchmark for.
I want to ride in the PD Mobile where you belt out the last verse of Brick.
Yeah. In my Mazda CX-7, just like bumping this album.
You're bumping that piano rock.
Yes, exactly.
It's like, yeah, it's great.
Vroom vroom. I've also learned that you listen to the wrong album on a car that I inherited. You can catch yourself doing a little bit more than 55. Maybe.
Well,
maybe
some would
to,
say that they can't drive 55.
You might end up catching yourself again up to 80.
Oh no! Just cruise on down to Homestead and win the race, Petey.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm no speed demon. That's exciting.
I enjoy automotive driving, Petey. It's my favorite kind of new Petey. So I got wheels. I drive 80.
It's all new to me, and I'm excited.
When you're getting past, like going in reverse on the highways in Miami with the crazy folks and in the cars and the drives fast and
but moving on.
Yeah, don't envy your big city driving sucks.
Yeah, it's fine. It just depends on the day. Miami is just its own weird thing.
It beats big city not having a car. I'll tell you that
True.
much.
Fair point.
Unless you had actual public transportation, but
none of us have that.
No, we ain't got shit for that. But yeah, moving on. Brett, what are your conclusive thoughts on Ben Folds 5?
I mean, this is an album that this is not this is not an ego trip in the way that music can be. This is somebody making an album about the things that you can make music out of and that people can relate to. And a lot of this I could relate to. A lot of this, there's a generation and almost a half between me and Mr. Folds when it comes to like life experiences. But this is a pretty timeless album. It's not stuck in making crazy references. It's a lot more. It's very poppy compared to a lot of stuff that came later, but it's not quite rocking the suburbs level of what we're making a thing to sell singles. This is a great album that speaks to people who have lived fucked up lives. And for a guy whose instrument that he was best at was drums and decided, fuck it, I'll play piano. And then he was Ben Folds. Goes to show that you could be the best drummer in the world, but it's hard to be a front man of a band by being a drummer. So it's pretty awesome to see he made the right choice.
Yes.
Welcome
to Ashes almost did it.
Yeah.
Although, like, I did see him play one time live. This is he was on stage by himself. He took a cookie sheet and he opened up his piano and he put the cookie sheet over on the left side of the strings on the piano, and he used his left hand to play drums on the piano while his right hand played music, and I thought that was, and he also had his piano mic'd, and it was mic'd through a fuzz pedal, so he was playing fuzzed out.
Did he do any of the thing where he like fills the piano with T-shirts? I've seen him do that. That's a Ben Folds thing.
He had 2 keyboards, like 88 key keyboards on either side. So he's in this horseshoe of piano keys.
Yeah.
And at one point he picked up one of the keyboards and played the other keyboard with the keyboard that he was holding.
I'm gonna hit a motherfucker with another motherfucker. Like,
yeah, he made a big deal out of it being like, this is my red keyboard. And this is my gray keyboard. And they were the same keyboard, but he played the red keyboard with the gray keyboard. 88 keys. That was noteworthy.
I went on a dive on the like 3 videos you can find on YouTube of him doing the ode to Merton, which is where he essentially just wears a hoodie, because there was a guy that wore a hoodie, went on chat roulette, and then like made random songs for people. That were people and not wieners. So Ben Folds did that live at shows, so he'd be doing it in front of like 1,000-person theater to random people on chat roulette, which is great.
Yeah,
which is probably right around smartphone becoming a thing. It's not a very easy thing to do.
Yeah, but speaking of people fronting as drummers, I'm pretty sure Jesse and the Rippers did that once. With Uncle Jesse playing the drums, standing up, doing his like pseudo rock.
Hey,
yeah,
I remember that in one episode.
We've all seen Phil Collins. It's his game.
But moving on. Those are our thoughts on Ben Folds 5. Now we get we think that thought. Let's get into our haiku reviews. Let's have fun with this. Drew, let's start with you. What is your haiku?
A great songwriter with musicians that are equal. Always an easy listen.
Patrick, what is your haiku?
Good piano rock, both serious and silly. It's 3 guys, not 5.
All right, my haiku. I put my notebook in front of my face. Ben plays piano and sings some catchy ass tunes. Look ma, no guitar. Brett, what is your haiku?
A chunk of my youth, piano and rock and roll, some old fold strikes golds, or beefy 5-layer.
Yes.
Except whatever line you want.
Yes. Choose your own adventure here at Record Breakers. But yeah. You can, of course, find this album on our Spotify playlist. Play Record Breakers at home. Play Record Breakers the home game. It's in fact named that. Yeah. It's in fact named that. So it's easy to find. But it's always linked on every episode. You can, of course, find on that same Spotify playlist, which are going to be in the show notes, next week's album. And it's going to be provided by Drew. Drew, what do you got for us?
Well, you say provided by me, but it's actually provided by me by way of another member of our podcast. This was sort of dropped onto my lap in a way of, hey, listen to this. It's way better than it ought to be. And God damn it, if Patrick wasn't right.
Oh, God damn it. I was hoping I was going to be right.
This is
the worst. This is the worst person to be right, Drew.
I'm sorry. But we're going to be going with... I could pull the other one I was thinking of.
No.
Stop clocks and all that.
We're going with Dream Car, with their album Dream Car.
You know what they say about blind squirrels.
They can't see shit.
Yes. They also like Glassjaw. You can, of course, find us all over the internet. Patrick gets us at the swag. Patrick is at
I'm
the
doing
swagger.
this as hard as I can, Petey.
Brett is at Hibbity Ribbit, HIBBITYBIBBRD. Drew is at X, Drewcifer X. I'm at PD Rave. The show is at 4 Record Breakers. That's the number 4 Record Breakers. RecordBreakersPodcast.com for the episodes and show notes. Rebelly.net for this and other shows. Rebelly TV on YouTube and wherever else I upload these episodes on video format or other type. You can find us where you can get podcasts, most of them. If we're not somewhere you want us, let us know and we'll try to be there.
Any way you want it.
That's the way you need it. Go check us out, subscribe, like, share, do all the things. Until next time, hasta los huevos.
Toodaloo.